Now, supersets are pretty intense, especially if you're doing multiple per session, but you can actually raise the intensity beyond that even with what are called giant sets. I've even heard them called monster sets before because they are literally that hardcore. Giant sets are when you combine 3 or 4 or more exercises into one set with little to no rest in between. So they're basically like, double or more what a superset is. And you might be wondering, well, why would I even want to do that? That sounds exhausting. Well, giant sets have a number of benefits and reasons why you might want to do them. First, they maximize your motor unit recruitment and your motor unit fatigue without going heavy either. Second, they get you a more intense workout without you having to train to failure or with, a high RPE. Third, they save time, which is very helpful. And fourth, they give you a more metabolic and aerobic workout. And fifth, some exercises are more effective when done together. And lastly, they help you to push yourself to the max and train as hard as you possibly can, again, without going too heavy, which could be dangerous. Also, there's specific ways to do giant sets that make them effective. All right, so it wouldn't make sense for you to just combine any 4 exercises from your routine as they are into one giant set. There's a specific methodology that makes them work. First, you would use lighter weights than you normally would, and second, you would use less reps than you normally would. So usually you'd be doing 10 to 12 or so reps each. You usually wouldn't be doing giant sets of 25 reps each. Also, you'd be doing a lower RPE than you normally would. You'd make sure that there are no limiting factors, okay? Because, for instance, if you're doing pulling, and your grip strength has gone out at the end of the second set, well, you can't do your giant set, right? So you need to eliminate limiting factors. You need to modulate your energies into fourths, okay? So you can't be training to failure on your first set and then be unable to do the second one. And then you would also want to generally save your giant sets to be done at the end of the workout, okay? So that they do not fatigue you at the beginning and then impact the other sets after that. And then when it comes to the rest periods between your sets in the giant set, you want to keep it at 20 seconds or less. Also, you would only be doing this for large muscle groups, all right? So you wouldn't do this for your bicep, you'd do it for your whole arm. And the bigger the muscle group, the better, okay? Because the idea here is that each exercise should target a different part of the muscle group, and so you want to have there be contrast in the exercises used so that they are complementary. So each set should alternate different parts of the muscle group that are stimulated. And then lastly, you wouldn't go to failure until the last set, of course, because again, you don't want to fail until the end. So that is how to do giant sets. But now let's talk about some good giant set examples for every different muscle group. First, we're going to start with the back. I've got 2 giant set examples to give you for the back. The first is a harder one. It starts with chin-ups, or you could do assisted chin-ups or cable pull downs if bodyweight chin-ups are too difficult for you. But whatever the case, your first exercise on this should be a heavier one, and then we're going to go into a more moderate one for number 2, which would be a supinated grip bent over pendlay row, or some sort of horizontal pulling that is done low for the low back with moderate weight. And then number 3 would be an incline bench pronated grip row, or some sort of row where you're using a pronated grip and pulling higher for the upper back. And you're going to do this with a lighter weight than the last one. All right, and then number 4 is going to be pull overs, which should be a light to moderate weight, whatever you feel comfortable with at that point after having done all the work you just did. But if that sounds like it's too hard for you and you're not used to high intensity training yet, you should start with a easier giant set first, okay? So this is an easier one. It starts with a close grip cable pull down, which you want to use a moderate weight for, and then goes into a machine or cable row, some sort of horizontal row that you're going to use a moderate weight for. And then number 3 is going to be pull overs again, which would be done light. And number 4 is going to be weighted reverse shrugs, which should be done with a heavy weight, or back extensions or supermans for the spinal erectors, which should be done light. All right, so that is a good, easier giant set for you to start out with. for the back. But moving on to the chest. This is a more tricky one because it is a much smaller muscle group. It doesn't really have 4 different parts for us to train with 4 distinctly different exercises. All right, but I do have a good example of a chest giant set for you here. It would start with a barbell bench press, which would be a heavier exercise, and then go on to an incline dumbbell bench press, which would be done light, and then go on to dips, which would again be heavier. And you could do assisted dips if you are not able to do enough dips, or if you feel like that would just take it all out of you. And then lastly, you're going to do flies, which should be done light. Now let's move on to the legs. The legs, like the back, are a perfect muscle group for giant sets because there are so many different parts of them to work out. Okay, we could even do more than 4 sets for the legs. All right, so I actually have 3 different giant sets for legs to share with you. The first one is a harder one, and it starts with squats, which is going to be a heavier exercise. And you can do whatever form of squat you are best at and is most ergonomical for you, because you want to be able to go on and do more exercises after that. Okay, so you don't want it to be too taxing. So then next we're going to move on to the stiff-legged deadlift, which you're going to use a moderate weight for, and make sure that you are targeting the hamstrings mainly for that. And then the third is going to be lunges. Again, whatever type of lunges your favorite and is easiest for you, you're going to want to use a moderate weight for that. And then fourth, you're going to do calf raise, which is going to be done light, and you're going to go to fail with that. And if you don't want to do calf raise, you could do another type of accessory work in its place, like hip abduction or adduction or whatever. Okay, so then the second leg giant set I have for you is an easier one for people, again, who are not as used to high intensity training. This one starts with a heel elevated close stance goblet squat, which is going to be done with a moderate weight. And then number 2 is side lunges, which is going to be done light, probably just with your body weight. Number 3 is going to be hamstring curls, which are going to be done light. And then number 4 is going to be quad extensions, which is going to be done with moderate weight and done to failure. So that is a good giant set for people who are just getting started with giant sets for legs. But I also have another one, which is a giant set done with all isolation exercises. Okay, so no compound movements for this one. It starts with a quad extension, then goes into a hamstring curl, then a calf raise, then a hip abduction, then hip adduction. And with this, since they are all isolation movements and there's no overlap or interference between them whatsoever, you can actually use your normal loads and rep ranges that you would be doing if they weren't a giant set, and just do these with no rest periods in between as a giant set without having to modify the loads or the reps or anything. So that's why doing isolation exercises as a giant set is a really great idea. And you can do the same thing with arms. Then moving on to a giant set for the delts. First, we start with a seated dumbbell overhead press done moderate to heavy, but with low RPE again. And then we go to a dumbbell upright row with moderate weight, and then a rear delt row with light weight, and then shrugs, which we can do heavy. And then for the arms, we start with an incline bench dumbbell curl, and then an overhead tricep extension, and then a preacher machine curl or spider curl, or some type of curl where the arms are in front of the body and not behind like they were for the last one, and then cable kickbacks, and then we will do forearm curls to finish it up. All right, and then for the core, there are 2 different giant sets we can do, starting with toe touches, then twists, then crunches, then hip thrusts, or starting with side bends, then doing V's, then back extensions, then twists. So there you have giant sets for every single large muscle group in the body. And you can feel free to mix and match your favorite exercises for large muscle groups that you feel as though you have a mastery over and are relatively easy for you, and which you've gotten really used to doing over time and thus are ready to increase the intensity of. So you can combine any of your favorite easier exercises into giant sets in order to really get a much more intense workout out of them. And just like with antagonist supersets that you can then turn into an entire session of alternating sets, you can also make an entire session out of giant sets if you are really serious about maximizing the intensity of your workout and are becoming an advanced athlete and are really looking to train as hardcore as possible. Doing an entire giant set workout is a really awesome way to maximize your intensity. So that being said, that is actually all that I have to teach you about effort and and intensity and how to train more hardcore. So now you know how to boost the intensity without having to raise the weight that you are lifting, and how to use effort and intensity tactics for greater progressive overload by making your technique harder and harder over time, so that you can continue to make those hypertrophy adaptations and grow more and more muscle over time, even when you are limited by how you can progress with loading. So that is going to be really useful information to you as you are making progress and becoming a more and more advanced athlete. And that concludes this class, and you can look very forward to the next one, which will be on specific training volume per muscle and training frequency, or in other words, how much work you should be doing exactly for every muscle in your training week. I hope you found this class helpful. Now, make sure to put what information you learned into practice right away before you forget, okay? That way it can actually go to work for you, because speed of implementation is one of the keys to success. If you have any questions or need any help, be sure to let me know either in the comments below or by the email address that is in the video description below. And if you are passionate about fitness but don't have time to do all of your own programming yourself and would like to have an expert programmer like me create and manage all of your fitness routines and planning for you, who can systematize your training so that you can reach your goals as fast as possible, be sure to inquire about my online personal training and fitness programming services. No matter what your schedule, budget, or goals, I can formulate the exact right program for you that will expedite your progress and growth and get you the body you want sooner rather than later, okay? And without ever spinning your wheels in the mud or hitting a plateau. And if you liked anything that I said in this video, be sure to hit that like button and the subscribe button and notification bell too, so that you can get all of my other videos that are like this one. And just remember that these videos are actually part of a course that is laid out in a linear fashion. So make sure you have seen all of the videos before this one that you need to see, and that you are subscribed and will continue to watch the videos that you watch on this channel in the order that they are presented to you.